When we talk about arrow functions in JavaScript, we normally refer to how they espouse a simpler syntax. We can write an arrow function with fewer keystrokes. However, that is not the only feature of arrow functions. Arrow functions provide another way to deal with the whole this keyword issue we have been tackling over the last few several topics. Arrow functions use lexical binding for the keyword this. Now, we're going to talk about what that means in the next topic. In this topic, I simply want to cover the syntax of arrow functions, the basics. So if you feel very comfortable with that, you can jump to the next topic. I think the best way to show arrow function syntax is by showing a traditional function and then convert it to an arrow function. Now, we will use a function expression, not a function declaration, because all arrow functions are function expressions. So let's take a look at the original function expression first. So here it is. It's just a sum function. So we declare a variable, and then we're passing in two parameters, two numbers, and returning the sum of those. So here's a console log statement that will display the result of that. I'm going to reduce this so we can just watch this work. So we get a 15 there. Now, first step we're going to do is recreate this as an arrow function. The exact same function as an arrow function. So const sum equal, that part is all the same. Now, here is where you would put the parentheses that contain the parameter. So we're able to skip the function keyword, so that saves us some keystrokes there. So num1 comma num2. And now we need to use the arrow to indicate the arrow function, and this arrow will take the place of our curly braces, the two curly braces, and the return statement. So it will indicate that whatever the result is will be returned. And so all we have to do after the arrow is num1 plus num2. And by the way, that arrow is simply created with an equal sign and then a greater than symbol. It's just two characters there. So that is our arrow function. Now, if I comment out this traditional function and save it, we see we still get the 15. Works exactly the same way. It's a function expression just like this is. It just has simpler syntax. Now, where I traditionally use arrow functions is when I'm passing a function into another function. I commonly use them in that case. Or, as we're going to talk about in the next topic, when I need to use lexical this binding. When I need to control lexically what the keyword this is bound to. Now, we need to talk about some additional syntax features. What if I wanted more than one line in this function? Right now we just have a single line. Well, if I were going to add multiple lines, I would need to use the curly braces. Those wouldn't be optional in that case. So let me comment out this one here, and I'm going to add opening curly brace, and then I'll add the closing curly brace. Now, I want another line. I want to console log those two numbers that are passed in. So num1 and num2, like that. Now, since we're using curly braces like this, we also need to include the return keyword. It's no longer optional if we want something returned. So I would place return right there. Now when we save this, we get the two numbers logged to the console, and then we also get the results of the function, which is 15. Now let's do another function that only has one parameter. Let's see what's possible with that. So this one's going to be called sum10. Basically, whatever number is passed in is going to be added to the number 10, and that will be returned. Now, for the parameter, I can include the parentheses or not. When there's a single parameter, I don't have to include the parentheses. So that can save me some keystrokes as well. So this would be the entire function right here. But it could also look like this. I could have parentheses around that. And you'll see both cases. So that would be with a single parameter. Now, what do we do if we have no parameters at all? Let's create a function that simply returns the number 10. So const get 10. Then we set that equal to, what do we put here? Well, we have to put parentheses in this case. If there is no parameter for the function, we need to include parentheses. Then, of course, the arrow. And now we're simply returning the number 10. So the arrow will automatically cause this to be returned. Once again, in either of these cases, if we were to include curly braces, we would then need to include the return keyword to return a value. Or if we needed more than a single line, we would want to use curly braces as well. So that's the basic syntax of arrow functions. And as you can see, it requires much fewer keystrokes. However, what we want to dive into is the lexical this binding, which is a feature of arrow functions. So let's move to the next topic and we'll jump into that.